Wanted to do this video while I'm driving home from the gym. You know, sometimes I feel like I'm all by myself when it comes to the way I think. I'm not saying like I'm some type of genius or I'm someone special, but it's hard for a lot of people to relate to my ultimate points. A lot of people get lost that know me in real life. They get lost in their emotions, and they don't necessarily understand the ultimate point of which I'm trying to make. So today, I made a post on my Facebook page, and it was trying to remember what the post was, because of course you get into these arguments with people that it's not even really what you're saying and what you're posting is not what they're arguing. So I guess I could just talk about the argument that they were making. The argument that they were making was the fact that I had mentioned in a comment. Oh, okay, I remember. The post was about saying if you can't feed them, don't breed them. The government isn't your baby daddy. That was a meme that I posted. And all I said was, why isn't this a law? And someone commented saying that they would use it to control black people. And I guess I said, well, they're using it to control black people now, but just in the reverse. What they're doing is they're using it to make it where it's more lucrative to get pregnant and not have the man around. And I mentioned to that individual that it was over 70% of children born out of wedlock. Now, someone else came along and said, where did I get that stat? And I said, well, you can Google it or you can go look on the CDC website. Now, that was met with a remark because I'm a person who don't believe that 2 aluminum airplanes knocked down 3 steel reinforced buildings on 9/11. So the comment was, I'll believe that stat when you believe 2 planes knocked down the buildings on 9/11. And I said to him, I said, you know, the stat is a very widely known amongst people who are either for it or against it, knows that number of 70% is probably very kind as an estimate, because that number is probably higher than 70%. Everybody knows this. But the argument always becomes what the point isn't. The point of the matter of the meme was, if you can't afford children, if you can't afford to feed your children, then you shouldn't be having children. Not arguing that great people come from humble beginnings. That's not the fucking point. The point of the matter is, if you are struggling to take care of yourself, why then would you bring another life into that struggle in which you're going through? At what point does that become irresponsible to know that you're suffering economically? So now you're going to bring a child who in this society where economics is everything for a child. Economics determines whether or not your child can get a suitable education or get a way below average education. Economics is the driving factor behind a lot of either success or failure. So to sit there and act like what that meme was saying was so wrong, to say like it's okay for poor people to continue to have children when they can't afford to take care of themselves. They can't afford to feed themselves, so they'll bring another mouth into the situation. That doesn't make any sense. That's like if you go and you are working a minimum wage job and somehow you luck up to get a BMW. Now, just to lease a BMW is almost $500. You're making minimum wage and you go out and now you're leasing a Mercedes-Benz. Does that make any sense? You're struggling to make the payments on a BMW. Now you go out and you go get a Mercedes-Benz that's costing you $600 a month to lease. Does that make any sense? Is that responsible? But yet, when it comes down to reproduction, somehow that's wrong to say if you cannot afford. Listen, when I lost my job back in 2012, me and my wife took extra precautions to make sure that I didn't get her pregnant and she didn't get pregnant. Because we knew at that particular point in time, with me losing my job, where I had a job where if I could afford a child, I could have. Or if I wanted to have a child, I could have afforded to have a child. Because our goal was, when I proposed to her and we set a date, was shortly after that we were going to start trying to have a baby once we got married. Now, in the meantime, in between the time that I proposed and the time that we got married, I lost my job. I got another job, but it was a tip job, and I was basically making what I would have made. I made $20 more than if I would have just stayed on unemployment. Now, wouldn't it be irresponsible if at that point we had a child anyways? Even though the child would have been born in wedlock, wouldn't it be irresponsible to have a child knowing that it's a struggle just to make the bill, to pay the bills now that I've lost my job, that I was making $50,000 a year? I lost that job. Now I'm probably, at that time, if I would have worked that job a whole year, I probably would have only made like 30, if that. Wouldn't that be irresponsible? I think people with common sense would say, yes, that would be very irresponsible to have a child after you just lost basically the suitable way of life. But yet and still, when it comes down to talking about the honest to God truth about poor people making irresponsible or poor choices, especially when it comes down to childbirth and having children, all of a sudden, you're the bad guy. You're the asshole in the room. And I don't know if there's hope for black people anymore. I highly doubt it. I honestly don't think that black people have the ability to have any type of logic and common sense and reasoning anymore. I don't think they do. Because anyone who would be upset at that notion is detached from reality. They're just caught up in their emotions, but they're detached from reality. I don't know. I don't want to make this a whole long video, but this just really, it really bothers me. It really does. And I don't know if I just feel so damn all alone. Like, I can't, there's only a handful of people that I honestly could have a serious conversation with. It's like everybody just gets so fucking offended. And, you know, I don't know.